Alrighty, good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Bros with Brains podcast. You're joined by myself, Ben Mayfield-Smith, and the bearded beast himself.
I don't know who that is.
There's some other guy.
It's just me in the room, but name's ESC, Elite Strength Coach, i.e. Aaron. Aaron Scafi, if you need to know my last name. If you want to look me up and, shoot me and shit, go for it.
Come sliding on into my DMs.
I'll also give you my bank account details and my license.
Preferably about training, though. Slide in about training, preferably. No unsolicited dick pics, please.
I mean, there was this one time. No.
Ben, stop.
Yeah, literally just one person. It's like, I think it's only fair with all the fucking posing photos I send. It's like, I decided to send me a dick pic. It's like, that wasn't for me, was it?
Payback's a bitch.
Yeah. It's just like, why are you holding a pizza box? Why is the pizza box open?
Why is there a bow around it?
Christmas present. It's like, it's not even Christmas. Every day is Christmas. All right, guys. So this is basically going to be that's the podcast. So we're done. Thank you.
It's been a great episode, guys.
We've lost shit. It's what is it? 3:40 on a Wednesday afternoon. That's it. Game over.
Yeah, red cordials kicked in. Actually, that's an interesting topic. How have you gone? I was gonna ask you about it last week. It slipped my mind because we're getting carried away. How are you going finding from, say, your powerlifting background and your movement background to obviously getting posing feedback and cues and training for hypertrophy more so about bodybuilding and.
It's fun. I think, it's funny. I have this conversation a lot. It's like when we all start training at 12, no, I'm kidding, 17, 18, going to the gym and that sort of stuff. We always do what we call bro training, right? I guess the old school was 3 sets of 10 or, training to a point where it's we just get a pump or feel crampy and sore. We don't really train movements per se. We don't
junk volume.
Yeah, well, we don't, it's like everyone's International Chest Day is a Monday, right? Everyone knows that. So it's the first thing you go in and do is bench press. And then, you just do chest because that was the thing to do. So you do bench press and then you do incline bench press and then you do decline bench press. And then you do dumbbell bench press.
Then you do the dumbbell variations.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Then you do flies, then cable flies.
Yeah, 100%. And then you finish with triceps because that's apparently what you do on chest day. So, it's we've always had this training background of doing bro/bodybuilding type, I guess, hypertrophy based training. And then as I matured, I got more into the powerlifting side of things and training movement versus actual muscle groups. So it was interesting, but my background's always been in sort of hypertrophy. So my fields of study have always been hypertrophy, physiology, so muscle physiology. So I think I know how to build a bigger muscle, so it isn't that hard, but I also know how to strengthen that muscle and obviously train a movement, which was biomechanical related. So, yeah, I mean, the transition back has been nice. I'm not going to lie. I don't miss powerlifting and feeling sore and shit. Every now and then I'll do a squat, I'll do a deadlift. I don't need to barbell bench press.
Yep.
But it's not conducive to my goal of obviously building bigger muscles, right? I don't need to do those because I have other variations.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So
how do you find obviously the decrease in joint load as opposed to muscle tension obviously is a big difference between powerlifting and bodybuilding based training, I guess you would say, hypertrophy isolation. How are you finding that on the body in terms of taxation, exhaustion? It's obviously
so
big
much
difference.
better, bro. Yeah.
More enjoyable, yeah.
Yeah, dude. I it's funny. It's obviously with both training styles, we, develop both peripheral and central fatigue, right? So it's we develop this, for people that don't know, it's CNS and PNS type fatigue. Most people think that it's always, my CNS is fried. My CNS is fried. And it's kind of well, no, CNS friage, we'll call it, accumulates over time. And that's basically when you get to a point where it's you actually feel good and to go train and your body's go fuck yourself, go home because I'm not moving this weight, or I'm not moving this amount of reps or this amount of sets. Whereas peripheral is that acute type fatigue where it's your muscles cramp, you feel sore, you have DOMs, all this other sort of stuff. And most people get that association wrong. And it's kind of powerlifting over time, especially from a comp prep where you start 12, 16 weeks out and you slowly start to increase intensity and get to, your peak block, you've accumulated some CNS fatigue. And it's you're quite tired. It's hard to get through those hard stages. But again, that's also why you're doing such little reps. You're not doing many. Yes. It's just intensity. It's you need to push yourself. to lift that 1 or 2 or even 3 reps, but it's really 1, 2 or 3 reps. It's not that difficult in that aspect.
Whereas, then you get a cam chair and wait for 5 minutes.
Yeah. And then whereas like, the whole bodybuilding side of things, it's like CNS, you get tired. It's like you're just, because you're doing so many reps, you're just not going to get the reps out at that weight. And the difference. It's like, it's just a very big thing that I always get like a little bit picky with as I get older. People are like, oh, my CNS is right. It's like, is it though? Well, like, is it, or are you just, a little bit sore and tired from training yesterday?
Yeah. So when you go through a program, and even say for yourself or with the clients, if there's still strength, obviously we're looking at progressive overload when we're training, we're building a hypertrophy-based program. Regardless, we are looking to build strength. Do you focus on getting those initial, I guess, first 1 or 2 exercises as a strength-based numbers, where you might say look at a 6 to 8 rep range or an 8 to 10 rep range where they're looking at building up, then say back off the rest of the session where it's more so volume of isolated compounds and things like that? Isolated movements? Yeah.
So for my powerlifters, I'll obviously always have to train the movement first, especially in a comp block, right? So
for sure.
Outside of comp block, I did see someone post that your off season and your on season should look the same for powerlifting, and I'm just like, dude, like,
what?
Yeah, and I'm like, I get it, like you're a smart dude, and it's like I kind of get the premise of wanting to hone in and better the skill development that you may be lacking in. So it's like you may be weaker in one aspect of a squat, and it could be a movement deficiency, and it's like, cool, understandable. If that's what you need to coach and train it, fair enough. Short of that, if they're an advanced lifter, like your off season, you genuinely don't need to touch a barbell. And it's like, it's really funny because if you forget how to ride a bike, for example, after riding a bike, then you have a deeper problem, and it's kind of the same problem.
Yeah.
Like relating to training. It's like, if you've done 10,000 squats, you're going to be able to squat again 6 months after not squatting. It's kind of like, and that's just one of those things. And if you can't, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say that first squat's going to be fucking picture perfect. But at the same time, it's like you have to build a base of muscle and then increase that strength. And then you hone that skill, that strength in with skill, which is your comp block, or, and you can start a comp block earlier out and start doing a bit of more comp specific hypertrophy, we'll call it, for, the actual powerlifting comp. But it's just, I don't know. I saw that and I was just like, I wanted to neck myself. But anyway, like when it comes to actual programming for a powerlifter, that's how I do it now. It's like I give them the main lifts. I might give them one accessory for that lift as well to complement it, get a little bit more specific volume for that particular lift. Like it could be just like a squat, and then give them a squat variation, whether it be a high bar squat, a poor squat, whatever it is, tempo squat, something to better that lift.
Yeah.
And then move into hypertrophy based stuff, because again, bigger muscles are stronger muscle.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really not that complicated. Like, I don't know why people think off seasons you need to do, the comp lifts. And it's like maybe one comp lift in the off season per block, just to give that fatigue element, relieve that fatigue element. But short of that, like, I don't get it, because they're skill-based movements that create a certain type of joint fatigue. And it's like, it's not worth it unless the client's a newbie and can handle that new stress, because, newbie gains, or if they're an intermediate or even advanced that just need to recorrect a few little things here, but it shouldn't take much. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Because you would look at, even if it is something that's worth correcting, it would be looking at that part of the movement that requires correcting, right? Like you wouldn't get, all right, let's go load up a fucking 1RM, like peak block rep in off season. And also we're also going to look at correcting your lift. No, you would look at identifying the issue, correct the movements around it to better posture or better position the person, and then sort of move on and go, all right, well, this entire program, you're going to be too exhausted if we're doing every single week, every single session, you're doing a 3 rep max, a 5 rep max, and then also trying to do some accessories, something like that. Your body is going to be completely fatigued, just be completely exhausted, burnt out. Your joints are going to hurt. You're not really getting in a position to recover and get back into a better position for your next comp prep in terms of like powerlifting. So yeah, it makes no sense why you would sort of train in off season for the same way you would prep.
Yeah, the only way I could see it logically and sort of applying is, like I said, if someone's deficient in a certain lift and needs some help, but at the same time, like I'd probably put it at the start of a session. Let's say they need work on a bench press, I might give them a bench press variation depending on where they're weak, whether it be off the chest or at lockout or whatever it is. Let's say it's off the chest, you give them maybe a pause bench, 5 second count, pause bench, low volume, low intensity, get them used to that stimulus, maybe increase the intensity over a 4-6 week period where it doesn't accumulate too much fatigue. So that the rest of that session is purely hypertrophy based. So it's like, give them like 3 sets of 3, nothing crazy, work on it, get a feel for it. Okay, now go do the rest of your program, get jacked.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. That's the only way I could see that sort of working. And that'd be for all the lifts, I think, in an off season anyway. That's, I think, how I do it. But I'm fairly fortunate that I haven't really needed to do that from any run. I think I've had 1 or 2 clients, I've given them off-season work where they've had the lift, but the lift is like 3 lifts into the workout and it's part of their volume. So it's like squat maybe, like short of that.
Because I find in my sessions, I speak to Dalton about it all the time. Like I think we've spoken about it before, either on this one or your other one. Dalt's program, you say like a deadlift, just as kind of like a cue reminder that yes, I love lifting heavy, but fuck, it's exhausting, and you're not actually getting much out of it besides like the feeling of lifting some heavy weight. Like, yeah, it's cool every once in a while to go experience a fatigue like deadlifting in a top set, and sort of building up your program to include a heavy deadlift block. I think last off season I did. I was doing like 5 sets of 4 at 225 at the peak of my block. Like, I'm not a powerlifter by any means. That's not a small number though. And then also incorporating that into the rest of my volume, it's like completely fatiguing and exhausting. Yeah. So once you sort of experience it, you then think, well, what's the cost benefit ratio of this in my program versus what other exercises I could do? And then also the fatigue of the rest of my session. So it's
well, that's just it. And it's like, you could literally put like that variation of the exercise. So it's like, instead, if you took away that, immense intensity and volume, or the volume, took away that immense intensity, like at that high of a, RIR, RPE, however you want to do it, and you took it down to 3 sets of 5 deadlifts and you put a third exercise into your program because the first 2 exercises were working what you needed to work because that's what, needs to be brought up in terms of a lagging body part. Well, then you're like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and again, that's probably another way to do it. It's like, if you need quads, it's like, well, fuck, we'll give you a hack squat or a leg press. We'll give you, leg extension. And then we'll put squats in 3 sets of 6, nothing intense, 4 RIR where it's not intense and you just get some practice. Maybe.
There was actually a question that we had. Mate messaged me and was asking about it. He said it's probably a good question for the podcast, but we could probably talk about it now. Was asking about whether squats are necessary, back squats are necessary for leg growth. And in defense of my position, I said no. Give or take that, don't get me wrong, if there's an issue why you can't squat, address that. I hate people that avoid an injury or an issue and then go, well, I don't need to squat. Well, but is it because of your programming around it or because you have an injury that you're neglecting? Now, correcting the injury, absolutely paramount because, well, you need to correct deficiencies, movement issues, fucking limitations, anything like that, so that you can contract correctly and effectively recruit the right muscle. But as I said to him, like going through my tendinopathy the last sort of 6 months, like I push on the brink of effective recovery versus also effective growth. Now, I haven't done a conventional squat since my last cut, which was in December. And my legs have blown up. Like the volume that I put through them is still high, like phenomenal. And all I do is I do belt squats and I do hack squats, but both of which are in a controlled movement pattern that I can sort of both brace and leverage from.
Yeah, so it's funny. I have this sort of conversation a lot. So the way I tend to picture it and sort of put it towards someone is, do you only have access to a barbell and you can only do squats for quads? Squat. If that's all you got, then that's what you do. There's no question. However, if you can go to like a commercial gym that has every leg machine, hack squat, leg press, all that sort of stuff, you don't need to squat to get a bigger leg. If you it's actually been shown that hack squats and leg press, not so much leg press, probably more a hack squat because it's probably the closest, and a pendulum even, are going to better hypertrophy of the quads because it removes external stability. So it's like you have in a barbell squat, you need to unrack, stand back, set yourself, squat. That requires so much effort and so many different muscle groups to stabilize you and put you in a position of safety to then execute that squat. That requires energy. You jump on a machine, that is now removed because the stability is already built into the machine. You literally just need to push or pull against it. So it is that simple in that that's why machines are called for isolation exercises, right? That's why we that's why we have hack squats and leg presses, because it removes any other external factor and you just need to simply push or pull.
Yeah.
And that the most energy that's required goes into the movement itself. that's literally it. It's as simple as that. And that's why you're going to hypertrophy the quads better with a hack squat or a leg press over a squat if you have access to it.
Yeah, I agree. It was pretty much to a degree the response I gave, but understandably so. Like all we ever see is people talking about squats and how like the squats, the bee's knees, and that sort of thing. And yeah, like don't get me wrong, like having general functionality to be able to squat is an essential part of life. You should be able to squat to a degree, get down into a baby prayer pose into the baby squat position. Fair enough, but in terms of hypertrophy and stimulus, find a way that you can isolate the quad that you're trying, like which if you're trying to grow quads. Contract that effectively and overload it with stimulus continually, progressively.
Like as much as I don't like to use myself as an example or an anecdotes, if that makes any sense, but it's like I think my best high bar squat in sleeves was 220, and I think I was about 106-ish kilos, give or take. Mm-hmm. 4 weeks ago, I decided to squat because we went into lockdown and I was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to have a play this week, and decided to go, okay, let's see what my high bar squat looks like. I high bar squatted 200 kilos at 99 pretty comfortably, and I haven't touched a squat in 12 months. So like I literally haven't barbell squatted for 12 months. So I'm kind of like, you can claim that doing other exercises away from the main movements as well is going to detriment the movement. But it's like, well, if you're doing it properly and you're still doing the movement pattern or similar to, it's not really going to do that. And the same thing with my deadlift. It's like I pulled 240 like it was, an empty bar almost. Yeah. After not deadlifting for a good 8 months, 9 months. So it's like, well, you can't really claim that. And I'm a lighter bodyweight, so like whatever.
That's the degree between where you find like anecdotes or I guess some science where people will sort of claim that you have to do X movement or you have to do this is the best movement, and then anecdote or individualization nuances come in and it's like, all right, cool, but I got this response and I programmed for it and the result was there, so that's still a result. That's still a sense. There's still a bit of data.
Yeah, exactly. If the movement pattern is similar enough, like you're still going to get some sort of benefit, and it's kind of like pulling 240, cool. Like I was RDLing 200 for 15 reps. Like,
yeah,
there's a reason why I can still pull 240 pretty comfortably. Because I can RDL like a motherfucker.
Dude, like RDL is an interesting one for me because like I can get again, me and Dol talk about it all the time, where it's one of those movements where my hammies love it, but my lower back hates it because it's such a good movement and I can recruit well and I can feel it and contract, find a decent depth. And my strength in my hammies and glutes is great, but the fatigue ratio on my lower back hates it. But I'm just moronic and like, I guess like all of us that do this sort of shit, we're psychotic to a degree, and I will push through that like initial pain. And then I just get up and I'm like stuck at a 45-degree angle for like 5 minutes trying to straighten my spine back out. It's like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah. I remember why I don't do heavy fucking 160, 180, 200 RDLs.
Yeah. And then you wake up the next day and like totally worth it.
I was at a hamstring head popping out. Worth it.
Yeah, exactly right.
That slip disc, definitely worth it.
Yeah, fucking oath. Well, it's like for me, I think the RDLs, not RDLs, it might have been deadlifts a couple of years back. It's what subluxes my rib. So every time I do heavy RDLs, my rib tends to sublux. So it's like, it just pops out and it's just like, whatever. So it's like, I have to go to my car and my car is just like, I just look at him, I'm like, rib, he's like, get on the table. Just like drops an elbow, like the people's elbow, just fucking bang. You just hear this pop and I can breathe again. I'm like, oh, this is great. I can breathe. Oh, I'm going to go RDL now. Bye. See you next week. Yeah.
When have you got RDLs again? Oh, next Tuesday. All right. I'll see you Wednesday.
Yeah, pretty much. Literally. That's pretty much how it is, bro. I know I'm going to see you on Wednesday. I dorm Tuesday. Done.
That's fair. That's a good trade-off. So how you finding posing? How you finding that side of movements? Like obviously isolating training and stuff like that is easy for us, but in terms of
posing's harder than training, bro.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking hard. It hurts. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's like it's different. You know what I mean? I get to learn something new, which is cool.
Well, for those who don't know, Scaf is looking at getting into competing next season. I'm coming to stop being a pussy and actually compete. And he's sending me basically naked photos every day.
Yeah, literally no pants, no underwear, just a t-shirt. Nah,
it's got nothing to do with posing either. He just sends
I just send them just for fun. Yeah, and then I send the posing photos when I put my underwear back on. It's fun. Like I'm potentially looking at season B next year. If not, it depends. The fucking shit thing is here. There's all these lockdowns that keep happening, and it's kind of like even though it's still plenty of time, it's like I'm still wanting to grow, and because I want to try and like in theory be anywhere between 90 and 95 on stage. And it's like, fuck, like I'd have to get to like 110, probably 112-ish before I cut to that weight for stage weight. And it's like last growth phase, I got to 105. And then, my pancreas decided to conk out. And it's like, well, fuck, like we've got a plan in place now to grow, and hopefully it's a more proactive approach. That I think will yield a nice result. It's just like, I've got to get through this little cut phase before I can grow again. So we'll see. We'll either season B next year, depending on how things, I guess, go, obviously, and then if not, season A the following year. Yeah,
that's
I'm not in any rush. I find a lot of people that want to compete, they're just in a real rush, and they're like, they don't put themselves through good phases of growth and cutting and
dude, it kills me. It's like you see a lot of in certain, especially like some, I find in some natty federations as well, like people doing back-to-back seasons without certain compounds to offset the fact that you're disgustingly reducing calories and going through drastic cuts for so long. You're clearly atrophying muscle, like you're not growing. So like that whole aspect just kills me. But then it's like, they have to get on stage. They have to be on stage and they have to pose. And like, you see the coaches shows like, oh, epic progress. Fucking look how good they look. It's like, yeah, but like you haven't even taken a period to go through an actual surplus of like 6 to 12 months. And you're in a federation where like your cut ratio is the same as your growth ratio. And you're thinking that's going to produce, without a disgusting amount of drugs, a decent result on stage. And it's like, yeah, I can get, you can drug your way there, but like, why aren't you taking time to actually increase food, train at a progressive overload, cycle and phase your training, and make some good gains that requires less amounts of stuff?
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like one of the only really good naturals I've seen is Brandon. Like, he's taken 2 years off season because he knows that he's probably going to put on only like 1 kilo of tissue. And he says it as well, which is really cool for him. Like, he's just like, man, I'm realistic. He goes like, yeah, like I got to take 2 years to maybe put on a couple of kilos if I'm lucky, because that's all I'm going to do. It's like, man, bro. So at least you're good.
Yeah. And but even for enhanced federations, like I see guys that are doing like, they'll go back-to-back seasons, but then they'll use off-season as like a complete decrease in training at all. And it's like, that's not the point of off-season. Like, you go through your life phases and, go socialize and hang out with friends, but an effective periodization of your training, if you are trying to continually compete, isn't prep for 12 weeks, take all the drugs, then stop and, go out party, see everyone and piss it up the wall, and then come back to drugs and training. It's like, you still got to prioritize your off-season growth and periodization to make sure that you get optimal returns to go on the stage next time to be competitive. Well, that's in my head, that's the way.
I feel like there's only one person on the planet that can probably do that in the off-season. It's probably Rami. He doesn't need to get bigger.
Literally. Just the one person who can get away with that.
He just needs to do 20 weeks of shredding. Like, that's it.
Yeah, pretty much. Just keep that mass you've got and then just go through your cut. Yeah, but like for everyone,
diced.
Yeah, exactly. But for everyone else, it's like, it confuses me because I see it all the time. I'm like, I get it. Perhaps you're not in it to simply just be the best and win every single show or whatever. But at the same time, if you're not looking to improve each season, then what are you doing for? If you didn't technically win and your approach is then just to cruise through and have some fun, then like there's other ways to have fun other than risking your health and like doing the shit we do to get there.
Right. Otherwise it's not worth it. Like, just forget about it. Just chill on like your, if you're on PEDs, just chill on your like TRT, HRT dose, and still going to put some fucking size on and, look good. Why not?
Yeah. But then you don't have to go through the life stress of like induced stress of training and prepping and like food restrictions, social restrictions, relationship restrictions.
Because it's it's like we say, like, short of that, because you have a better chance of just enjoying yourself, enjoy your food, enjoy your training, still make progress. Obviously, just not to the extreme where it's like, people think, bodybuilding, like dieting down, getting bigger, like in terms of a competition setting is enjoyable, and to an extent it is, because it's a privilege that you get to do it. Yes. But at the same time, it's still stressful. Like,
fucking it is.
It's like, like you pick to do that. Yes, like you enjoy the process of it. It still induces stress. Like, don't
there's
get
no way
twisted.
Around it.
Yeah, like don't get it twisted in that it's like, oh, I'm loving this. It's like, no one loves the stress part. If you could, you'd walk on stage at like fucking 110 kilos shredded as fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, sweet, I'm good. Like, I don't need to do anything. I look great. And then you walk off stage with your pro card.
Not one part of this has been hard. I've had the time of my life.
Yeah, exactly right. But that's, not realistic, right?
But that's where the fun part comes. Like the fun part to me is the idea of like, see, say someone like yourself, learning to understand and appreciate the art of posing and actually putting time invested into it and like what it can be. Like, yeah, it looks cheesy and a bit cliche, sort of when we're on our like Instagram sharing posing videos and stuff, like the actual artistic routine. But that's the beauty that gets to come out of it inside such a subjective and I guess what appears to be an egotistical driven sport is that we then get to display that and show you what actually comes from the work and how I guess the beauty can unfold from it. But that's why I love posing so much, even if I'm not the world's best poser, like even if I'm very stiff right now and I'm working on my ability again, but posing to me is very underappreciated. And that's where the fun part is. Like the fun isn't being shredded and being like, going through peak weeks and going through all that stuff like that. Fun to a degree, but the real fun comes in being able to display it and sort of show off what you've done and what you've cultivated.
Yeah,
and
surely your song for your actual routine is going to be like "All Eyes on Me" by Tupac. Like, has to be. Like it literally just came to my head right now. It's like, because at the end of the day, right, that's what the posing and the routine's all about, and that flow is like you're literally trying to keep all eyes on you, right? So tell me what better song?
There's gonna be Crip walking across stage, hit a double bicep, Crip walk back,
fucking red trunks, like fucking do it, bro. You're a Crip, just fucking go hard. Just be like, yeah, what up? You're a blood. You're wearing red trunks. You're a blood, not Crip. I get that. But yeah, you just walk out and just like all eyes on me. Like, let's do this, bro.
No, I was actually thinking my posing song. What was the one I was thinking of? Warrior, Imagine Dragon.
Yeah.
I was thinking. No, I don't think too many people have done it. I haven't found too many, but I'm like, okay, I can see some flow to this. I can see some decent like. There's enough hits where it's like, all right, if you time it properly, you can hit a spread or a contraction at the right time, and it just like emphasizes with the music.
Comes with it.
Yeah, which will be pretty cool because I see like pros and stuff now, and they're like, you see the difference in say Flex Wheeler and Kevin Levrone, like their posing had purpose and feel to it, and they had focus on it, and it was like to a point of art. And now there's a lot of guys who are just like, yeah, I'm big on stage and I'm going to go across the stage, hit a pose and do a different pose, look at the angle of the crowd, hit a pose. It's like, yeah, we can see that at guest posing. You can see that at like a guest show. Like you're on stage, you get 2 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever it is now for pros to show off something artistic and beauty worthy to express kind of why you do it and what it is to you and that sort of thing. And like, there's a lot of guys who sort of, I think they're relishing it. Like, sorry, they're relinquishing it.
Yeah.
And then we still have a few guys who really love it and put some great effort in. You see some amazing presentations, but there's just like some bigger name guys that are just like, they waste that time on stage. I'm like, man, even at the amateur show level.
It's funny. If you watch Ian from the weekend on at Texas, you should see how slow he takes and the time that he takes to get his posing right. And everyone's like, oh, he's just lethargic and tired. And it's just like, he's just like, nah, like I feel good. I'm confident and I'm happy. Like I'm just taking my time. I got no rush. I'm like, he's just like, they got to beat me now. Like I know I've got this. And he just takes his time with every pose. He's the last one to finish his pose, but man, he looked bang on and he won. So it's like, two shows in a row. Like, dude, like you can't critique that. Like he was loving the process. He's like, I felt good. My head was good. I knew I was calm as shit. I'm just like, I'm just going to take my time and hit my poses the way I want to hit them and make them look the way I need to make them look and, get the win. And that's what he did.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, how do you find, kicking off track with that, how do you find in terms of posing and stuff like, I guess the difference being between like powerlifting and sort of that sort of thing where you're leveraging through joints, through muscle, but at this point now you're training muscle to be able to contract it and spread it and display it a little bit differently. So how do you find that?
Well, contracting a muscle in training is pretty fucking easy, right? Like, like being able to contract under load makes life a lot easier, especially when we know what movement needs to be hit and what needs to flex and what needs to extend. Posing's are kind of the same, kind of different. There's no resistance to contracting that muscle and then making that muscle pop in certain movements that aren't, really conducive to showing that muscle. It's kind of like, it makes it interesting. Like, spreading your lats without having to do some sort of like lat pull down, for example. It's like, this is different. Like really trying to like make them like really wing out, like, and that sort of stuff is pretty difficult or can be difficult. the leg poses and stuff are interesting. I feel like I can sometimes, like, it's so hit and miss. Like some days or even weeks, I'm like, yeah, I got this. I know where I'm going. I feel this. I got this. And there's other days where I'm like, where in the fuck did my hamstring go? Like, it's like, do I have to do more hamstring work? And then it's like, oh no, it's here on this day. So it's just trying to get him to sort of react the way we want him to sort of react, right? And putting pressure into the floor off the ball of the foot and flexing the knee, extending the hip or bending the hip. It's like fucking trying to work that shit out. And then you get torso rotation, and then you got to push the tricep against the lat to try and bring the tricep out or the delt out and fucking whatever. Like, and then all of that, you got to breathe and suck in and hold it. And you're like, fuck this. So legit. You're trying to think of all these muscles you're trying to contract, and then all the last thing you got to think about is like your stomach coming in, because then you just look fat. Welcome to my world. All my
you're beating off 3 different cramps in 3 different muscles.
Yeah, literally, right. And that's why I'm like, I haven't posted any other poses bar a back pose, just because I just look fat because I can't control my breathing. It's
a hard one that, like, I see people leave it until like the last 6 weeks, and they'll throw all of a sudden, I'm going to start my posing practice. It's like, bro, what have you been doing for the last 20 weeks? Like,
I'm doing it for like a year and a half beforehand.
Yeah, legit. It's like, if you aren't doing like off-season practice, if you aren't doing like, my logic is, if I can hit poses unconditioned in off-season, heavy growth with food in my stomach, then come stage day, it's a piece of piss. Like, I can pull in a vacuum now after a full day of eating. Yeah, it's softer and watery because I'm doing 1,000 grams of carbs. I'm doing like 5,000 calories a day. But at the same time, when it comes to that level of like on stage, then when I'm not doing that and I'm leaner and tighter and everything is more on display, it's going to be a walk in the park.
Yeah, fucking earth. It's pretty straightforward. The more you practice, the better you get, right?
Yeah. Anyway, dude, how's Melbourne going? What are you guys hitting down there? You guys, what now? You just got park lockdowns, I saw?
Fucking dude, we got an extension on our friggin' lockdown for another 2 weeks, and then curfew's back. So 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. you can't do anything. Your bedtime is now 9 p.m. here in Melbourne. So government mandated bedtime, which is great. And yeah, so they closed down like parks and some other shit. I can't remember off the top of my head. Parks was a big one. Like they have, the fitness equipment outside as well, some of the parks, and like kids can't jump on the, playgrounds and shit. And so they didn't close down parks, so playgrounds. That should probably be the best way to do it. You can still go kick the ball and stuff at the park and go for your walks and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. I think it's still only a maximum of 2 hours a day with only one other person or some shit. And then, close down skate parks and playgrounds and all that. Good times. And it was over 20 cases. It was on, like, that was what it was over, 20 cases. Though in saying that, I don't know if you saw, there was a family here that decided to hold an engagement party. Have you guys seen the footage?
Oh, I haven't, but
no.
I'm gonna have my head.
So the new, like the media got a hold of the footage. There was a guy getting like engaged to obviously his fiance, and he was positive, and I think either his mother or mother-in-law or someone were positive, and you can see. So he's making his speech, and he's like, "So obviously this is a gathering, a religious gathering, or something along those lines." He was just being really smug, and he's like, we have doctors here and lawyers and stuff. And it's just like, dude, like you're a fucking moron. He had like 70 people inside his house.
Oh, it's a slap in the face.
Yeah, it was pretty fucking shit. Between that and then we had some sun out, and then some of the like pubs and stuff, what they did was they're doing like pop-up like alcohol, so they can do it from their from their shops, and they were putting like little pop-ups on the street or whatever it was. And what happened is, it's like, I don't think that was the problem in that they couldn't not sell the alcohol or whatever. It was more so people hanging around.
Yeah.
So people hanging around the place, obviously having more than one drink and hanging around with their friends. Yeah. Sun's out, masks are off. And it was just like, here we go. Yeah. So now what they've said is, actually the funny thing is they've said down here is like, okay, so we're now going to say you cannot take your mask off to drink alcohol in the street. And people are commenting like, so if you can't take your mask off for alcohol, but you can for a coffee, what about an espresso martini? Like, where does that sit in the grand scheme of things? And I'm like, that's a fair question. It's a fair question. Like, do you have your mask half on, half off? Like, what's the go? Like, is it up higher or is it half like left, right? Like, what's going on? I don't know. But anyway.
Well, I won't get bogged down on more COVID chat because we're going to end up doing it every week.
Yeah, well, man, with here and the updates that you get, it's fucking ridiculous. It's like we saw like Gladys saying that she's like had the harshest laws or the harshest lockdowns, and we're sort of sitting here again like we've had the harshest lockdowns worldwide, like ever in Victoria. Like I don't know what you're talking about, darling. Like, yeah, it's fucked. Anyway, how's Queensland? Fun, good times, getting the sun.
It's good. It's good. Being open, being able to do things is great. Not that we do much, but I'm like, I can travel, I can freely go to the gym, I can freely go to my groceries, and I can go to uni. So great. Yeah. That's plenty for me. That's fantastic. It gets me to a point where, I can get back to training, progress in off season. I can focus on me, do the things we need to do. Just hope to God that, again, it's a very, very privileged position to be able to say, but hope that season A is all fine next year so that we can compete. Again, I recognize that as a very big privilege to be able to say, but
still, I mean, you are training for the goal, man. It's like anyone, even now, like season B, people training for season B, and they're like, "Fuck, I hope this goes ahead because fuck this if it's not right." Like it's fair.
Yeah. Well, like Tommy, one of Adult's other boys, good mate of mine, my training partner. He's going for season B, and like right now looks phenomenal. Like he went away for 2 weeks for work, came back, looked like a different cat, and I was just like, oof. Grinded out the low calories, stuck to it, got ahead of his condition. So now it's like time to play with peak week potentials and things like that, protocols. And that's a tough grind to get through when you go and work away and guys are, camps have got food out and they've got like mess halls full of food and chow that isn't on plan, obviously, and you've got to stick to your 2,400 calories. It's like someone grinding through that, and then you find out the show's over. It's kind of a slap in the face.
Exactly. It's just like a shit. It's like even here. So I think it might be Australia wide that Tony Doherty put up, like an expression of interest for season B to see how many people were going to compete. I don't know if that was just for down here or Australia wide, but so it'd be interesting to see how many responses he gets because I think that's going to determine potentially how many people compete and what they do and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we need on here. We need a Jamie like on Joe Rogan, so we can just be like, "Oh, Jamie, when was
pretty much put the stats up." I mean, I've got my internet up here. I mean, I just don't have Instagram loaded on here. I can just be like, "Hey, dude,
find that video. No, not that one. Find that video."
I mean, I think it was on like IFBB, wasn't it? Like he did it on. I know he did it on his own page, but I imagine he did it on the IFBB Australia page.
I didn't see it, but I can imagine it's a fair ask at this point. Because like, oh God, I can't imagine the level of athletes or the number of athletes, that are going to be sort of available to train over the next 2 months to actually make it go.
Yeah, well, that's just it. So it's like people are sort of, obviously hit and miss because we don't know what the goal is. Like we don't know what's going to happen. So
yeah.
And people obviously want to know if they're prepping and like if it's worth it. It's like it's completely fair enough. Like, you're entitled to know if you're going to compete or not.
Yeah, because I'm like, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of supplements, a lot of health issues and stuff going to something you're not going to get to do. That's the tough part. Is like, to me, the earlier the better that you can announce it. I think because to a degree you can then pull out, readjust, and recalculate what you want to do. And is it worth getting that lean? Do I take these supplements? Do I do this in my body, or can I just do a small cut and go another growth block? Yeah,
well, so he put up. Let us know if you want to compete in season B. Expression of interest. This is not a commitment to register. However, we would like a clear indication of how many people plan to compete. So that's all it was. It wasn't anything like else. It was just simple, easy. Hey, you guys want to compete? Let me know. And go from there, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair enough.
Yeah, not sure. I guess we'll see what happens, right?
Something that I was wondering should we go into was that post I sent you about easing up on conditioning and bodybuilding.
Yes. I mean, so, okay, put it this way. I can reference this more so to powerlifting more so than bodybuilding. The more I get into like bodybuilding and coaches of bodybuilding, I can understand obviously more like the protocols, like, and, you know, things that people do and sort of looking at it like, oh, like maybe not. But from I've been involved in the powerlifting side of things and that sort of stuff for a very long time. So like, my background in PT is, I think, decently well known these days, you know, and sort of working in enhancement practices. They're not the same, but they're not too dissimilar either, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of common trends that we'd use for both male and female, both in powerlifting and bodybuilding. Obviously, bodybuilding being more hypertrophy based more so than movement and strength expression. Different compounds obviously yield different results.
Mm-hmm.
So the person that had passed away, obviously, I have no idea who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Like no idea, like at all. But from what I've understood and read, again, this is second to third hand knowledge, so take it for what you will. This isn't the first girl he's had pass away. Mm-hmm. This coach, I can't remember the coach off the top of my head, to be honest.
I can't remember the coach's name exactly, so I'm not going to stab someone in the dark for no reason.
Someone in America, I don't know. Apparently puts a ton of girls on stage though, like has, you know, numerous pro cards under his belt and, you know, obviously gets results. But it seems to be a very common trend with a lot of these extreme coaches that it's either hospital or it's stage. There's no like in between. Yeah. And this isn't the first time that, you know, a girl he's had has passed away. And that's like, you think one would be more than enough to say, I'm not going to get coached by this person. But
yes,
you know, these coaches, I don't know whether they're just being really cheap, like they charge really cheap. So it's like a generic type program. Like I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, is it the results that they're still getting with their clients that are alive? Maybe, like, I don't know.
Yeah. Is that the cutoff point?
It's kind of like, don't get me wrong. Like if I'm looking for a coach, if I found out that my coach had potentially something to do with someone passing away, like I think hospital's a funny thing. It's kind of like, depending on like the person, the protocol and all that sort of stuff, I'd probably inquire about it, to be honest. So it's like, if I had if my coach had put someone in hospital, for example, I'd probably just ask him and be like, hey dude, like, this is what I heard. Like, can you just give me the lowdown just so I have peace of mind? If they can, sweet. And if they can't, it's like, cool, man, like this has been a great run, but I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. You know what I mean? It's kind of like just logic. And then if he put someone, like he killed someone, I'd just be like, bruh, like, I'm not working with you. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, in what world did you decide that? Yeah. And like, obviously it's an extreme sport. Like,
yes,
you push people to extremes, but at the detriment of someone's health, like to that point, like dying's kind of a problem for competing. Like, like, and Broderick always says it. He's like, well, you can't compete if you're dead. And he means mostly for powerlifting and strength sports. So it's kind of like, well, like, it kind of puts a stopper in shit. Yeah, put the stopper in shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, fuck, man. But like, was it the conditioning? Was it the extreme levels of conditioning? Or was it the protocol that was used? And again,
that's the thing that gets me. That's the thing that gets me when it comes to protocol use and stuff. It's like not only old habits die hard, but it's just old guard passing on old acquired knowledge that they got from their gym bro before them. Like, oh, this is what this compound does. And it's like, oh, you can't say these, you young guys, new guys, you don't know because you're just talking data and science, but this is what it does and this is what we used it for. And it's like, yeah, cool. But like, you're getting stuck in your old ways and then enhancing those old ways with further either myths, bro science or bullshit. And you're literally killing people. Like, it doesn't take a genius to figure out 3 or 4 compounds you can give someone to get them shredded. That's fine. That's fucking easy. But being shredded versus being and leading to them dying or like, you know, leading to that level of malhealth is it's not coaching. That's just like, it's dangerous.
Yeah, well, understanding like things that like diuretics and, you know, all this sort of stuff that really do cause like severe dehydration. That's effectively what they do, right? They dry you fucking out. Like, females take to diuretics better than usually think guys. But at the same time, it's just like, if you give anyone too much, it's a kind of a problem. Like, couple that with like, you know, thyroid stimulating compounds like T3, T4. Like, it's fucking like you're asking for a shit show. Like, not understand, and then not being able to balance out what you lose from using a diuretic. It's just like, it's just fucked. It's just like, are you stupid? Like, man, like, what are you doing? like as a coach, like
well, it didn't kill me, so it should work for you.
Right. It takes like a very knowledgeable coach to understand that and be able to use it and manipulate it and do it in a safe manner. Or a safer manner. It's never safe, but a safe or safest manner possible, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I saw the protocol again, third or fourth hand. I'm like, what in the flying fuck?
Yep.
It's just fucked.
Yeah, it's weird where it even comes from. Like it's what gives me the shits, because like bodybuilding can be such a positive sport. Like a post I put up the other day, it can be such a great thing and be such a great sport, and then you just sort of get lost in the like this sort of stuff happens, and then it just ends up like that's what gets the peak news and the peak headlines. It's like that isn't bodybuilding. That isn't a reflection of the sport. It's just like a reflection of stupidity and ignorance.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's like you were talking about in terms of conditioning. It's like, well, it's funny how you and me, like we always talk behind and be like bikini and even like physique, like I feel like they've gone almost too far in terms of their conditioning. It's like, again, I'm not experienced, I'm not versed, but it's like, I guess if you're speaking to a nobody or somebody that has no idea about, let's say, bodybuilding, if you say to them, hey, they're competing in bikini, what's the first image a person has? Probably someone slim in a bikini, right? Like, not shredded as fuck.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, you know what I mean? Not like crazy lean, like, sub 16% body fat or something, we'll say.
So it used to be that like, a bikini girl versus say an actual female bodybuilder would be like, the difference would be drastic visually and condition wise, but it used to be obviously you could tell like a tone flat stomach, big perky, like full round glutes, musculature of the legs and like shoulder caps, but not like striated, dry, fucking isolated muscle bellies everywhere. And now it's like the only difference between female bodybuilders and bikini bodybuilders is size.
Literally muscle fucking muscle fucking size, and it's just like, for fuck's sake, like, are you serious? Like, what is going on right now? Because then you think like the opposite, the males being physique, it's just like, well, hold on, they're just supposed to look good in board shorts. Why do they have to be like 30% in board shorts?
It used to be physique was the obtainable, like the more sports look that you would see on like muscle development, where it'd be like, oh, if you saw that, it's like achievable, but also like, godly kind of thing. Like you look at this stature, like, oh, that is amazing physique, but it's got, sculpted and capped shoulders, great full chest, dried abdomen, great back, but it's not like
it's almost like a healthy common. Yeah, it's more like a healthy athlete almost. Like
exactly.
Like
they're peeled as shit.
And they're not exactly small.
No, they're not. You can see some of them have in the board shots, like you see them next to like classic physique competitors, they would outsize them. Yeah. It's like, right, you're in the board short division with bigger quads and calves than the guys who are doing classic physique.
Classic, look, again, someone who like I get very, very new to that side of things and try to understand. Like I'm prepping one of my first girls to go through from her first prep with me from start to finish, and we're 8 weeks out. And so it's like I'm asking everyone that I know that's just like involved in it, just like, hey, what do you think? Like where do you think she's at? Just so I'm on top of it. And luckily I've got some pretty good guys around me that are like, dude, she's good, or she's ahead. Like, don't stress. I'm like, sweet. Because we've done it in the most healthy manner possible. It's just like, she's still been.
I don't want to kill my athlete.
Well, yeah, I gave her diet. So I wrote a diet Monday. And I gave her jelly. I gave her a fucking, she's like, what the fuck's this? I'm like, yeah, you can eat jelly. Why not? Like, enjoy it, dude. Like, fucking live the dream, man.
Not
like,
tilapia and broccoli.
Yeah, like, oh, she's got some like veggies in there and some meats and all that sort of stuff. But I'm like, yeah, like fucking have some jelly, man. At the end of the day, every day, have some jelly. Like, you can have it. Like, it fits, it works. You're going to enjoy it. It makes you fucking happy. Kills you some sweetness. Like, go nuts. Yep.
Some light jelly and some Greek yogurt. Boom, done.
That's it. And it's simple. And it's just like, she was just laughing. She's like, her last diet from her last coach, she didn't get that. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not me. Like, I want you to be healthy and happy. Like, this is why we dieted 20 weeks out, not fucking, 10 weeks out.
But on top of that too, it's like it's reflective of the fact that like some coaches are progressing and sort of getting a better understanding, but you also, there's too many coaches that sort of like, as we're saying sort of before we started, was you're coaching from a perspective of you live and breathe like clean eating, and you live and breathe such and such program, and you live in the gym, so it's easy. Tell everyone to do exactly what you do because that's what worked for you. But X person that you're coaching doesn't have the same life experience as you, doesn't have the same life environment as you, doesn't have the same life as you. So telling someone just simply, oh, you can't eat jelly, and some Greek yogurt, because in my diet when I went through prep, it was just chicken and brown rice. So you have to do that too. Yeah. What? Why? No.
Yeah.
Like that's a horrible way to go about it. You need like progressing and recognizing that sort of things change. We see different methods of approach. We see things change and for the better. We can give athletes less stress because they're not hungry and eating the most boring, bland foods possible. They're relaxing because like, hey, I can actually sit and enjoy this meal, and they're therefore going to look more conditioned because stress is decreasing. And it's like, all because you just gave them something they enjoyed, which to them is like, oh shit, I can be in a diet and enjoy some jelly. Whoa.
Yeah. Something so simple, right? And it's just the effect that it has on the brain. And it's just like, yeah, cool. Like this outlook isn't too bad. And imagine, like, as much as I don't like to use like a reward-based system, if that makes sense for clients, it's like, I'm not a fan of it, especially when it comes to nutritional practices.
Yeah.
Like you're doing something kind of not extreme. I mean, bikini isn't like, let's be real, extreme. Like it's still, it's hard. Like,
yeah,
like I feel bad, giving, pulling away food, for example, from my clients.
Yeah.
And it's funny because she knows that. She's like, oh, you're just nice. And I'm like, I'm just trying to do this in the best way possible so that you're as healthy as possible and you're enjoying it as much as possible. Like, I don't want you to be fucking, like, I don't want you to be miserable and hating life every day for 10 weeks, right? Like, and I pull away food, but I'm like, well, here's the jelly at the end of the day. And it's kind of like, well, you get to look forward to it. And at the same time, like I'm in a cut now. Like, don't get me wrong. By any means, it's not the same. I'm cutting on 450 grams of carbs. Like it's great. I'm kind of living the dream. But in saying that, like I'm still fucking hungry. Like right now, I'm starving. And I don't know if you've seen my posts overnight, but it's like I've had so many people be like, what the fuck are you eating for dessert? And I'm like, man, I've got ice cream, I've got jelly, I've got fruit, a couple of Tim Tams. I've got like Tim Tams sitting here. I'm like, I've got fucking I've got Oreos going on now. I'm like, man, I'm good. Like and everyone's like, how the fuck do you do that? I'm like, because I manage my food. And it's like, you don't see what I eat during the day. I just literally ate like fucking rice and minced meat with veggies in it, like, and some flavoring. I'm like, don't get me wrong, it tastes nice. Like it was fucking delicious. I'm not gonna lie, but like substance-wise, there's nothing in it. Like macro-wise, there's nothing. It's carbs and some protein. Like I'm saving everything because I get to eat it at night. Because eating after 6 makes you fat. So
no carbs after 6 or any calories after 8 because
while I'm eating like 150 grams of carbs at like 9:30 at night. Yeah, cool.
Bro, my last meal last night was, what did I have? A 6-pack of pikelets, 75 grams of Nutella, and a bowl of Nutrigrain, like 150 grams of Nutrigrain. So it's like, oh no, at 10 o'clock at night, I ate that and then laid in bed and watching TV. Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what's the worst thing that's going to affect my daily weight the next morning? Maybe if I don't go to the toilet before I weigh myself. Cool. Shit happens. Like literally.
Literally, it's going to come out.
I'm not worried about it.
It's pretty good too.
Yeah, as long as my check-in photos, my posing photos and stuff come in leaner each week, my coach is just like, yeah, man. He goes, I'm not stressed about your body weight so much. It's like, let's just get you leaner and leaner, and then we'll go through a growth phase again. I'm like, fucking sick. Let's do it. And I'm pulling in lighter and pulling in leaner. I've dropped another kilo this week, which has been great. I'm like, this is sick.
Beautiful.
Just keep doing it.
That's a good thing too. Is like understanding that conditioning isn't just dropping weight. Like if you're dropping too much weight too quickly, that's not a good sign of conditioning. That's like generally a bad sign.
Exactly.
Especially come to bodybuilding, you don't want to be progressively just dropping weight for the sake of it. There needs to be a planned reason for why you're dropping weight. Especially to make sure you're optimizing muscle retention and maintain as much muscle tissue as possible. Yeah. But a lot of guys get fixated on, I've got to be, this cut, I have to lose 10 kilos, something like that. 10 kilos isn't going to guarantee you lose 15% body fat, or, you get down to like dick skin lean. That's not how it works. Yeah, optimizing oxidation of fat stores is what's going to make sure that you're dropping body fat.
Yeah.
So
I see a lot of people really fixated on how much weight they need to drop. And it's kind of like, I thought this whole sport wasn't based on weight. I thought it was based on look. It's like, who cares how much you weigh? If you're diced, you're diced. Like, don't worry about it.
There are some people who are like, fair. Like they'll say, they want to come under 90s. And so they'll get completely shredded. They'll drop all this weight to get to like 89.9, then just load until like they go on stage. So they went under 89.9, but ended up on stage at 97. And it's like, see, that's what so with bodybuilding, is the weigh-ins that like, is there a weigh-in a day before, day of? Yeah, it can be different depending on federations. Depending on the category of the league. I know my state show was the day before, so on the Saturday morning too, so it was early. And then Arnold's definitely wasn't the day of. I think it was the day before as well.
So it's the same with powerlifting. Like we have the weigh-ins, like depending on the fed, you have the weigh-in 24 hours, so the day beforehand. It's just like, cool, weigh-in at under 100. get on platform at 106. Nice.
Yep.
It's going
to fueled up, full of food, pump blood. Great.
So I hate that. I personally genuinely disagree with 24-hour weigh-ins. Give people a 2-hour, 3-hour weigh-in and watch everything change.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Especially maybe not with like bodybuilding, considering they obviously obviously severely dehydrated potentially, and, all the side effects of that sort of stuff. But again, the practices would change, right? And the same thing with powerlifting, and like even see like UFC fights and all that sort of stuff. It's like, imagine with the weigh-ins being the same day, like you have to compete at the same weight. Different ball game. Let's see who's really that weight and how good they fucking are.
Yeah. Because for sure. Because then there's guys, I know guys that will weigh in and then all of a sudden it's punching down 1,000 grams carbs or filling up before they spill out. Or then on top of that, you get to sleep and then you get to digest that food and you wake up full as fuck. Whereas obviously if you were 2 hours out from your show and get on the scales, that wouldn't be the case.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just, I hate I had 24-hour weigh-ins. I just strongly disagree with them. It's just a personal opinion though. So.
Well, let's, before we get too carried away on our other topics, we've been going for like an hour now already. Let's jump onto some questions.
Let's do it.
Because usually they take us a good minute.
Yeah, that's very true. What you got for me?
All righty. Let's get a few good ones in here. What else? Okay. There's a good one. Lack of sleep, how it affects performance impacts, and mental health. Oh, so that is a good one. You can hit that from the performance perspective if you like.
Yeah, man. So lack of sleep, it's funny. It's cyclical when it comes to training and wanting to better your performance. It's like you want recovery, you want good nutrition, and you want obviously good training, right? And if we put those three in just like a circle, for example, if one is impacted, usually the rest are going to be impacted, and sleep impacts everything. So, if you don't sleep, you build up all this, besides being obviously tired, which is fucking obvious, right? The actual other effects on your body and your system, everything just fires more slowly simply because you're tired. So it's like, neural impulses fires just a tad slower. And it's just, they're so small, but they're so significant in that muscle contractions get shitter and they're worse and slower. Then you can't lift as much weight. You feel like crap. It's like your training sessions end up being shit. And then what happens? You end up feeling shit because your training session was shit. Yep. You feel like you didn't do well or you didn't do good enough because, we all have the same complex. Nothing's ever good enough. And then, you get to your food and you have this really ridiculous hormone imbalance acutely for the particular time where you just don't want to eat. Your appetite is suppressed, and especially if you're in a growth phase where you need to eat, when you're tired, the last thing you want to do is eat because all you want to do is sleep and do nothing. Then your NEAT is down. So it's like if you're supposed to get steps in and shit, you're not going to move because you haven't got any fucking energy because you haven't slept well. Yes. It's just this big cycle. Yes. I'm really big on sleep if you hadn't noticed. Yes. How does sleep affect the performance? It affects it really badly, to be honest.
Terribly if you don't have it.
Yeah, you kind of need sleep to perform well, because also in recovery, right? So it's muscle recovery occurs during sleep. So deep sleep is where our muscles recover, and REM sleep is where we start to process memory, and we start to actually process skills and new skills that we've learned or memories that we forged happen in REM sleep. So they sort of start to move to long-term memory and all that sort of stuff. So it's if you're not sleeping, there's short of performance, there's a whole stack of other shit that you're missing out on. Yep. So especially if you've learned something new and you have a bad sleep, you're not gonna have the ability to retain it as well or understand it as well the next day, and then you're gonna have to reread it and redo it. And I tell you that from experience, being from high school and uni where I didn't sleep, rereading the same page over and over again, trying to understand it. And what would have helped is just a good night's sleep.
Yes. Memory consolidation is a huge one, especially when it comes to converting habits and actually retaining them. I see people a lot nowadays sharing and tagging Atomic Habits in their Instagram stories and stuff like that. Great book by all means. Also understand that you can forge great habits. That's great. But if you're not converting, especially through the sleep cycle and the spindles, converting short to long-term memory, you're not going to retain those habits and actually develop those skills or I guess those behaviors, because that is a short to long-term memory conversion. You're doing something reciting something, repeating something that you've learnt and enacting it across every other day, which then through sleep will obviously convert it to a long-term behavior because you're memorizing it. And if we're not optimizing sleep properly, those habits obviously won't take place. Sleep, the effects sleep has on as a I guess a holistic approach to everything around training is
just everything around
incomprehensible
life, right?
how big it is.
Yeah. It's almost like someone did a story about it on their Instagram, just saying in the highlights about circadian rhythms and sleep. Just let you know that was me. Just in case you're wondering.
Just follow me. Talk about this stuff.
Did it a while ago. I'm pretty sure it's just called circadian rhythms in my Instagram profile. So if you go there and in highlights, it might be the first one. Actually, it's the second one. So yeah, in case you wanted to go into that a little bit more, or third one. Anyway, yeah, continue.
Okay, so all right, who wins in a fight out of Al Capone and Skeletor?
Skeletor for sure, right?
I mean,
I loved He-Man as a kid, bro.
Yeah, like does Al Capone get his gangsters with him? Does he have like a crew, or like is it?
I'd still take
Tommy guns.
I still take fucking Skeletor any day of the week.
Yeah, Castle Grayskull, Skeletor.
I feel like that's a really weird matchup. I feel like if it was like Skeletor versus like Red Skull or something, I'd be like, fuck, that'd be all right. Yeah, like I wonder what happened there. But Skeletor versus Al Capone, like, what's good about Al Capone besides some fucking machine guns? What's he gonna do? Do a line of coke and be like, a line of coke and be like, yeah, let's do this. Like,
I'm indestructible.
Like, I don't know if does this person understand who Skeletor is? Like, like he's the key enemy of the universe.
Yep.
Like,
fair point.
Come on, bro.
Fair point.
Like, just
all right, what do you got for me?
Actually, let me open my phone. Hold on. What have we got? Let's see. So I don't know who this person is, but people like Maximus McCall. Do you know who that is?
I don't think so.
No, me either. Hitting 20 grams of fat a day and like 800 grams of carbs. Thoughts? I'm like, well, it's a good question, but I don't know who Maximus McCall is.
Firstly, how are you only getting 20 grams of fat and hitting 800 grams of carbs? You're doing like pure sugar and cereal.
Here we go. Online coach, strongman, powerlifting, hypertrophy, 4-time world strongman, WA. Okay, so it's someone in WA. Gotcha. I mean, he hasn't got any pecs, if that helps. He's got some big shoulders. Looking at his photos. So, I mean, I guess you can always talk about just like really low fat dieting versus carbohydrates. But I mean, I like low fat diets for guys. Like when I say low, I mean literally like 0.5 gram per kilo. It's sort of the lowest I'll venture to. And I just tend to leave it there most of the time. Guys don't really need fat. I mean, there are some functions that are useful for fat, but you don't need really much more than 0.5, it would seem. Especially on the enhanced route, you definitely don't need any more fat. You just need good quality fats versus saturated fats. Again, carbohydrates being their prime fuel source, it just means you can build like your calorie consumption. And that way, the higher you can build your calorie consumption, the better it is when you diet down, because dieting down on 3,000 calories versus dieting down on 1,000 calories, much better.
Correct, yes.
So it's like, you're pushing the threshold of like carbohydrate metabolism. So the ability to actually oxidize carbohydrates and use them as a fuel source makes life easier, break it down to glycogen and then uptake in the blood. Makes the life a lot easier in that aspect.
Yep.
Whereas obviously if you consume fats, if you overconsume fats, but it's the same thing with anything. If you overconsume calories, like it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
I
do find when I start to get excessive amounts of fats is where composition really starts to change. Not as in like excessive, like I'm eating over my plan, but excessive as in like, I say higher levels of fats versus carbohydrates, my composition really starts to shift. I just seem to have a really inefficient metabolization of fats in the body. It's just something that we've noticed across several different phases of cutting now. So when I keep carbs and just keep pumping up carbs, great, feels good. When sort of fats just start getting those to the next level, it's like, okay, right. So you sort of hit that plateau.
Well, fat oxidation is only going to be as efficient as it can be. The less amount of fat it needs or it uses for oxidation, the better it's going to be. And then obviously the better it's going to use carbohydrates, which is a faster source. So, if you're lean, that's why it's like if you're lean and then you use minimal fats, it's better. If you're less lean and use more fats, like getting fatter, like that kind of makes sense in that aspect. But then obviously an overconsumption of calories is also going to do that. So yeah, I mean, I'm all for like low fats, just not extremely low fats, unless it's for a very short period of time. Like I don't mind the acute bouts where if it's necessary and, you know, if it's manageable by the client, for example, if I give a client 30 grams of fat and be like, can you manage that for 3 weeks? Cool. Like quick wash off, done. Let's move across. Don't need to though. I don't think I've ever taken past 60 grams of fat from memory.
I've done, you know, trace fats diets for like 2 to 3 weeks at a time to really push conditioning. Just simply out of the fact that, right, I'm not taking calories and carbs because I need to train. Fats are the last thing to go, and I got to keep protein for muscle retention. So we take off fats. That's like a 2 to 3 week bout where it sucks and you suffer like hell. But at the same time, like my body fat just drops ridiculously. So it kind of ends up paying off. But I mean, yeah, you would not be recommending that to anyone for like, you know, 6, 8, 12 weeks or anything like that. They would be horrible.
Exactly right. No sense at all. But anyway.
All right, moving on.
What else we got?
What else have we got? Ooh, here's a good one. What aspect do you find most people misunderstand in the fitness industry?
Man.
Where to start?
Yeah, right. Like it's sort of a deep one. I don't know. This is a funny one. I think understanding that if you're hiring a coach or a PT, they're probably not most of the time going to look the way you perceive them to look or be, maybe. Used to be very common with face-to-face clients. Obviously now being COVID and everyone's being indoors, it's probably a little bit different. Actually, it's probably a little bit more acceptable. But like walking around, there used to be this connotation that you needed to look a certain way, I guess, to be a good face-to-face coach. And I mean, like, don't get me wrong, obviously practicing what you preach is obviously going to be a big merit to, you know, your ability to sell yourself, because that's what you're doing effectively as a PT and as a coach. But at the same time, if you're good and knowledgeable and able to express that and build a rapport with a client, like I've seen a ton of coaches that don't look like they train. They do. They just don't look like they do. Happen to be able to have full books and stuff like that purely because they're able to express their knowledge and get a result for their client, which is sort of the primary goal, right? So it's like, it doesn't matter. Like I could be fat as fuck, but if I've got, you know, 50 clients and they're all shredded to the fucking bone because they listen, does that really make a difference on me? Like, no. You know what I mean? I think that was a big one. And then it's funny because as a PT and as a coach initially before, like I even started like PEDs, for example, like I was okay-ish in shape-ish, I guess. So I guess if round was a shape, no. Like I was in some sort of shape, like healthy-ish. Then, you know, moving my training style a little bit more to strength, like powerlifting type and being a bit more intense and starting PEDs, which obviously is going to help. And that's not why I did them. Like, before anyone sort of jumps down my throat. I did them because I had too many clients asking me about like theoretical questions, which I had all the theoretical knowledge and no practical knowledge. So I'm like, well, I should probably do them so I understand them and feel them so I can actually advise a little bit better. But again, I digress. Like, you know, looking like better obviously attracted more business for myself. And that's because I didn't have a full book beforehand. So you can take that as, you know, with what you will, but I think that was one of the biggest things was, you know, the way you look and, you know, walking the walk and talking the talk. Yes, it definitely helps a lot. It's not the end all and be all. As long as you're semi-healthy-ish, I guess, and can move and can express and articulate your knowledge, then fucking you should be fine.
Yeah, I think a big one too is a lot of coaches struggle to understand that you can't paint everyone with the same brush, and not like one principle doesn't apply to every person. You can't blanket apply even the most fundamental basics. You can't really apply generically to everyone. You need to understand nuances to each person. And yes, we have theories and principles for a reason, but you have to understand the person first to make sure it's the right principle, the right theory, the right reasoning, and actually grasp whether or not it's suited to them. Like I sort of said before, like yeah, we know for a fact calorie cutting and dieting and having more whole foods is better. But if you just simply go to Karen, who's 46 and a single mom with 2 kids, and go, look, every single day you need to have chicken and brown rice and broccoli and oats for brekkie with a scoop of protein, and only do like some boring fruit that she hates, the chances of getting results out of her is going to be completely diminished. And then she's going to be pissed off and say that all the fitness industry is crap and, coaching's terrible. Don't ever go do it. Give everyone a bad name because she experienced you and you refuse to adjust your principles to vary depending on the person. And I think that's a huge misconception, is that, a misunderstanding in the fitness industry, I guess, is that, one blanket statement can apply to everyone. It definitely can't. And if you're, I can understand, like, if you're a coach with your ways, fair enough. But at the same time, like, if your ways are being applied to everyone regardless, because that's all you know, that's on you.
Yeah, it's funny that it's like that whole blanket statement comment. It's kind of like, well, at the moment, obviously, everyone being online, and everyone's sort of trying to differentiate themselves from each other, right? Trying to, nab the clients as they were so that they can build their business. And it's like people, so many more coaches are talking with definitives. And it's like, as scientists, like, we're taught, if you speak in a definitive, you don't know. Like,
yes, correlation, not causation.
Yeah,
never 100%.
It's kind of like a warning sign speaking in a definitive.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
bell curve. We have averages. Let's stick there.
Yeah, and it's like, you can understand, I guess, why they're doing it, in that, trying to, corner the market for themselves to try and get themselves some clients. But at the same time, is it detrimental to the client? It's kind of like having a conversation today. And, a very, very close friend of mine was very triggered by someone else's post. And it was simply, the post was just about, don't reverse diet out, just move to maintenance, or like stop reverse dieting out. And it's like, obviously from, a physiological standpoint, we understand that and why. It's like, hey, you just, if you reverse diet, you're just prolonging the actual diet itself. You're prolonging the deficit. Like, we get that.
Yeah.
Like that's not rocket science.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, also you need to acknowledge that, hey, reverse dieting may be the way to go based on the client, because if the client does have some mental health issues and all this other stuff, like, it's going to be more beneficial to them to do it that way. So it's not a bad thing to reverse diet, but obviously, and that was sort of addressed in that the way it was worded was just very, very, not aggressive. It was just very, very particular. It was obviously worded in a way to yield a response. Yeah. So it's like I get it. And that's why, like, when I read it, I just laughed. I'm like, well, I agree in that, you should, like, I don't see the reason to move to reverse dieting if you can go straight to maintenance. However, if the client, has this perception, has these, body image issues, mental health issues that you're not equipped to fucking deal with in the first place. Like, problem number one. Reverse dieting out is not necessarily end all and be all. You can do a much more aggressive reverse diet. You don't need to reverse diet someone for 10 weeks. You can do it for 4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
As long as they acknowledge and know that, what's going to happen at either point. Like,
you're not staying at 4% body fat.
If you can literally say to the person, hey, we're just going to move you straight to maintenance. You're probably going to put on fucking 7%, 10% body fat. You're 4%. We're going to give you 10% body fat. But if we reverse diet you out over 10 weeks, it's going to be the same result anyway. You're just going to be fucking dieting for longer. How about we just move straight there? Fuck it. And let's just get fucking jacked.
Let's just,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, anyway, it's just funny that just seeing these things and people trigger, but obviously this language that's used now in social media with definitives. And it's kind of like, like, you use a definitive and then explained, a portion and then addressed it. It's kind of like a negative with the definitive and then a positive explaining why you kind of use that definitive term. It's cheeky and it's like, it's good marketing, good tactic, but very manipulative as well.
Yes.
And it's like, hold on, like, is that detrimental to potential clients that you're trying to bring in? You know what I mean? And then it's like, the funny thing is, it's like, coaches that like are working like with females and stuff like that. Like, we know that, like, actually we don't, because a lot of people don't know that the actual body image issues is very prevalent in males as well as it is females. It's just more advertised.
Literally just studied the last semester. It is actually worse.
It is worse. It is worse in males than it is in females. However, it's more publicized in females than it is in males. So again, different topic. I'm not saying anything about that. I don't give 2 shits. Just something that people probably should know. But it's advertised as female. So it's like all these coaches online, female only coaches, right? It's like, like helping females, and it's great. But are these the coaches that are using these sort of terms? And it's kind of like, is this degrading? Is this derogatory? Is this abusive? Is this aggressive? Is this all these negative things? to your particular clientele, your avatar, your genre of people you're trying to get. Like, hold on, is that how you should be talking to them? Like, are you manipulating them into feeling guilty and then coming on with you? Because that's not how you coach.
Yes.
Like that's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah, you're creating the disease in order to sell them the cure.
Exactly right.
Fucking hate it. Oh,
yeah.
God. We won't even touch that, or I won't stop for 3 hours. But yeah,
but you know what I mean. It's like, it's just becoming a lot more prevalent now on social media, just because in the coaching world, anyway, like body composition world, only because people can't coach face to face.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's like, and they're trying to corner their market and become, everyone's an online coach now. It's like, it's just apparently the thing to do because everyone thinks it's cool. Like no one understands the hard work that goes into it.
I just have 3 different programs I give to 50 different people. What do you mean?
Like fucking, right. It's like, for fuck's sake.
All right. I got a cool one. I got another one. How much of a role does the olfactory system play in cravings? Now, interesting, because when you take this one, you got this one.
Go for it.
Okay, cool. So olfactory is essentially one of the major cranial nerves that runs to the nose. Now, the cranial nerve that runs to the nose connects to the brain and basically sends signaling of smell receptors. So when we smell something, it's basically interpreting that smell and sending the information to the brain. It's how we process it. Mm-hmm. Now, what happens is it also connects to, I could be way off here, but I'm pretty certain it connects to the hypothalamus and the hippocampus and essentially draws on memory, brain freeze. It pulls on memory and basically pulls from memories. So what happens is we smell something we know, we associate with that smell, either the feelings that go with it, the connection we have with it. Mm-hmm. And basically that will lead to a craving based on past experiences. So it's not just that, oh, look, there's some KFC chicken. It's KFC chicken. I know I have a really good time when I ate that. I spent that time with my family. Yeah. It takes me back to that memory, that moment where we had it as a Friday night dinner all together, having takeaway or whatever it may be. That may be the same smell. It happens in a multitude of places when we go to certain clubs or certain any social or situational event, and you have that smell you're familiar with. It's like, oh, I really remember this place because of this, or I really remember coming here with Dad because of this, and that's all through the smell. It's a smell system, and that interprets that smell, sends signals, and basically brings back those memories. So we get a good feeling from it, we get a good understanding from it, and basically that's where cravings comes in, because you then go, all right, I'm hungry. My smell has been heightened because, well, I'm hungry and the body's trying to heighten my reason to eat. And then we're going to basically exist in a place where, for instance, me, when I did my blast prep, I lived above Arnott's. I lived up the road from Arnott's. And so every morning I would get the smell of fresh baked cookies.
Yeah, right.
And that would just send me back to being a kid, being like, oh, you just know that that's going to be a great smell. Like, oh, that smell, that it's going to taste good, it's going to feel good. And that's all part of the olfactory, is the way it connects to the brain and sends those signals. So it's actually, it's not as direct in terms of cravings like, say, leptin and ghrelin, but it still works to increase signaling for cravings because it's reminding us of something we know we enjoy.
It works on a different part of the brain. However, they are still like linked in a sense. It's like leptin and ghrelin don't work anything other than a physiological response, whereas you're looking at an emotional response that triggers the physiological response of leptin and ghrelin. Yeah, makes complete sense.
Correct. So that was an easy one.
Yeah, like very complicated, yet simple, because that's what we do.
It is.
We make science simple.
It turns out that's the best way to learn.
Yeah.
Got any more piss-takey ones?
Well, it's a very good question. I actually don't think I do, to be honest. I think they were all relatively serious from memory. Let's have a look.
People need to stop taking us seriously. Do they know who we are?
I know. People think we're actually like into science. Like, what is this bullshit?
Give me some dead jokes. For those who don't understand, my expression of humor and the way I cope with things is through very dark, ominous amounts of humor. So very common jokes for me are around the passing of my father. Not everyone enjoys them. I find them hilarious.
I got someone saying they want to talk about penis, so I probably don't want to talk about that.
My lack thereof, or
tough stuff no one has the balls to touch on. I mean, I got someone said anything. We just like your voice. I don't know who they're talking about there, because I feel like you can't really hear me.
Just talk softly into the mic.
We've heard intensity in training, proximity to failure, and roles of a coach, but I feel like we've touched on that like last week.
Yeah, we've been there a few times.
Yeah, I feel like that's like that. That's sort of a key thing that we talk about a lot. We'll see what the other one gave. Let's have a look. Why is Ben gay for mole man?
That's Tabby. That was definitely Tabby.
100%. Actually, this isn't a bad one. This is again, this is a serious question. It's not a funny one, but a newbie lifter, are drop sets as effective for compound exercises as for isolation?
Oh, I mean, drop sets. I love drop sets. I mean, this is more your realm, so how about it?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so are drop sets effective? Yes. They literally they prolong a set. That's all they're really doing. That's really all those different training styles really do, like in terms of rest pause and, you know, drop sets, cluster sets to a point. They're really just prolonging a set. So whether it be via time, via reps, or, you know, via mechanical load. Are they as effective for compounds as they are for isolation? Yeah, sure. Like there's no real difference in that aspect of things. The question is, I always say, safety. So is it safe to do so in a compound movement? Will depend on the movement, obviously. I don't like using drop sets and even rest pause in anything that's a free weight. So barbell and dumbbell work, I don't tend to like it or program it purely from a safety aspect, because especially if you're pushing to that proximity to failure, obviously safety gets compromised a lot more. Closer to failure we go. So let's, you know, use them on machine-based exercises, you know, like you can, like incline chest presses, like, you know, seated rows or machine rows, like, you know, chest supported rows and that sort of stuff, like bicep curls, fucking short, tricep extensions. Lateral raises is probably one of the only dumbbell exercises where I'd be like, you know what, go ham, like fuck it, like send it. Short of that, like there's not many. You know, I would do free weights, you know, and increase the set length, if that makes any sense, or add extra volume where it probably doesn't need to be done, where we can do it via intensity.
Yeah, and the other thing too is you can add that load elsewhere anyway. So if you're doing a squat and you're looking at doing drop sets on squats, what's the benefit of doing, you know, 2 or 3 sets where you've just completely taken the weight off anyway, add an extra 5 or 10 reps, risked injury and compromised your stability, when you could then go and add that total volume to, say, the hack squat or a leg extension or a leg press or a lunge, and you're more stable, you're more secure, you're more safe, and you have control over blowing out and failing and getting that intensity up. I don't see the need for it to be under a squat load that you would do
that. Also fatigue accumulation is obviously going to be a lot more, both CNS, CNS, PNS, from a compound movement usually anyway. So it's going to take away from the energy that you have for the rest of the workout. So like sort of we were talking about before, if we have, you know, squats at the start and we prolong that set, like if that's the main exercise that needs the most attention, then, you know, maybe there's an argument for it. However, if you're looking to just say build quads, let's say, and you still have leg extensions in there, well, why would you take, you know, your first exercise to failure if you still have leg extensions and just sets in leg extensions? Like I'd rather do a drop set on leg extensions, or I prefer rest pause. I prefer rest pause over drop sets. Drop sets just gets messy. It's too much equipment. Like can't be bothered with fucking. And then you have to have someone there, and you got to take the plates off. It's really fucked. Just like
by the time you stop, especially on like a squat, if you've stopped and you've got all that, like if you don't have someone with you, you got to re-rack, take the weights off, relift again, reset, go again, do another set, do the same thing, and then you got to put it all back on to do that same set. Like fuck that. What are you doing?
Just rest pause it. And if for those that don't know what a rest pause set is, it's pretty straightforward. You just take a weight, take it, you know, to like 2 RIR, like a couple of reps from failure, or if not failure. I prefer to do it to failure, to be honest. So take it to failure, get a couple of breaths, like sort of 10, I say 5 to 10 breaths. So whatever the time elapsed is, go again to failure, do it again. So for 3 times or 3 rounds, and that's 1 set. So you only ever need to do 1 to 2 sets, rest pause for it to be effective.
Fair, completely fair.
Yeah, man.
That's all the questions I have, my dude. Anything else you got to touch on?
I mean, I've got a ton, but I mean, we've been going for like over an hour and a half now.
Been rambling away, talking shit as per usual. I wonder when people want to get sick of us. Like I do have to say, I'm probably going to say it every week because it baffles me, but like this is 4 weeks in now. This is 4 weeks in, and people are still listening, and people like still sharing and tagging and stuff. So that's fucking awesome. Let us know what else you want.
For people that ask the questions and and we don't get to them, I apologize, but please keep coming them in, and we will.
It makes it more interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, we will definitely get to as many as we can. We do just tend to ramble and talk shit.
Look, you know this going into it when you sign up to listen to us. You kind of expect it. So.
We told you from episode 1 and every other episode thereafter, we talk shit.
Yeah, but definitely like any ideas or things you want to talk about or want us to talk about, or think it's worth bringing up, even if it's not just a question for the box, if it's just something you want to hear about, definitely flick a message through so we can dive into it.
Anything else that's going on? Anything you want to talk about? Launch? Anything coming out for your matter? What's going on?
Man, so yeah, we've got I've got probably another 2 massive days of work on this book. I spent all morning doing some research. I got some feedback from a very respected, I guess he was a contact friend of mine over in England who's just read the book. So just some extra suggestions he put forward that will make great additions to the reading. So probably spend the next 2 or 3 days touching that up, just diving into the tips he said. I've already done some extra research and reading on the studies he put forward, and I'll try and include those as best as possible. And we should have that one out by the end of the week, which is great. It'll be a downloadable purchased ebook from the website. So it'll be the first major read. Like obviously there's plenty of blogs on there and a few ebooks already, but it'll be the first sold read, I guess, will be my first product, I guess, per se you'd call it. That will be a part of a lot bigger program to come. So from each one of these books, I want to get into, like I said before, eventually seminars and lectures and stuff like that. So as a first sort of product to dive into, it'll be the first one, the sort of first cab off the rank.
Yeah, nice. Sounds good, man. Me, there's nothing going on. Because we've been extended in lockdown, still have the seminar that's happening, Foundations of Hypertrophy, on the 12th, I want to say, of September at Apex Strength down here in Victoria, Melbourne, in Coburg. Tickets are in my Instagram link. First 10 get a bit of a cheaper price. And for the first 10, I think I'm just going to throw in a half an hour mentor call as well. Just, spice it up a little bit.
Yeah, sweet.
Chat to some
people. That's naked, by the way. He does it without clothes on.
100%. Well, I've got no pants on now. I've just got a t-shirt on. People think I'm like, man, it's a party downstairs. What's going on? Letting them hang. Nah,
it's cold though.
Man, I've got the heater on for that. That'd be stupid. I'm well covered. That's why I'm in a t-shirt. But yeah, so that's really about it. I've got a few things going on. Mentorship to come out next year. So probably start to create a wait list for that at some point.
Well, very nice.
That's about it, to be honest. I think from memory, yeah, got a few things coming out. I might do an online nutrition seminar or pre-recorded seminar. We'll see if I can be bothered. I mean, I should. I've had a lot of people ask me. I might do it. It's not like I'm doing anything else in COVID. I'm just waiting now for my hack squat leg press combination to come in so I can play on that.
God, we're boring when you start like we're excited about gym equipment rocking up and like being able to go train. It's such a fun, boring life.
May as well. Well, like fucking, I can send the hack squat. It's gonna be sick.
Fair. Yeah. No, dude, that's it for me. Again, thanks everyone for listening and tuning in. Hopefully it's a bit of rambling, but it's actually worth listening to.
Thanks a lot, guys, for kicking in, and hopefully you enjoyed, as always. Au revoir.